So now let us move on to the next chapter. It is cultural evolution. Cultural evolution, in which we'll discuss about the broad outlines of prehistoric culture. Prehistoric culture. So in this topic, we will discuss about the cultural developments which happened in the prehistoric time. So first we'll be discussing about Paleolithic culture. This will be followed by Mesolithic, Neolithic, Chalcolithic, Copper Bronze, Iron Age. In this, the first three, these collectively we call it as the Stone Age. By lithic, we mean stone tool. Lithic means stone, lithic tools means stone tool. So the Paleolithic means the old Stone Age, Mesolithic middle Stone Age, and Neolithic new Stone Age. New Stone Age. After this, right, there were some discovery. For the first time, man started using metal. What happened as an accident, right? He managed to learn the art of smelting metals. How he can melt the metal ore and how he can design it. So for the first time, copper makes its appearance in Chalcolithic culture. Chalco means copper, lithic again stone. So this is predominantly a stone tool culture. Chalcolithic culture is predominantly a stone tool culture, but copper makes its appearance here and there. So copper was the first metal to be used by human beings. Followed by copper bronze. Bronze is an alloy made out of copper and tin. How did our prehistoric man learn the art of this metallurgy? And how he managed to fuse these two metal to make an alloy? Then, then comes Iron Age. With the invention of iron, it was a new beginning in the cultural history of human beings. Warfare, slavery, large scale deforestation, everything started with the invention of iron, because iron is a very hard metal. So this is the sequence by which human culture evolved, and this sequence is universal. So though it might have happened in different time, nowhere in the world people used iron ahead of copper. Nowhere in the human culture we can find the tools belonging to the Neolithic period appearing in the Paleolithic period. No. This sequence of evolution of culture, right, is uniform throughout the world, though the period may vary. See, in one part of Africa, the Paleolithic culture might have existed between 3 million years to 3 lakh years. In another part of Africa, the same cultural phase might have existed between 2 million years to 1.5 lakh years ago. But wherever we go, the time period may vary, but always Mesolithic culture comes after Paleolithic, Neolithic comes after Mesolithic. There is no change in this sequence. The sequence of evolution of human culture is almost universal. Excuse me. So in today's lecture, let us discuss about the Paleolithic culture or the Old Stone Age. Generally, we use the term Stone Age for the prehistoric sites found in Africa. There is no cultural rule, but generally, as it happened, right? By Stone Age, we refer to the lithic tool culture of Africa. In other parts of the world, we generally use the term Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic. Okay. So now let us discuss the Paleolithic culture. There is Old Stone Age. Again, this Paleolithic culture is divided into three cultural phases. Number one, Lower Paleolithic. Number two, Middle Paleolithic. And third one is Upper Paleolithic. This one, right, roughly corresponds between 3 million years ago, and it almost continued up to 1.5 or 2, or some say 3. It varies in different places. Okay, 3 to 1.5. lakh years. This is the oldest known culture, oldest known stone culture of the human beings. But again, I like to make it sure, please remember, this lower Paleolithic culture was not made by our modern Homo sapiens sapiens. It was Homo erectus. Who contributed for making this lower Paleolithic culture. Homo erectus, and in some regions even Australopithecus, but most prominently it was Homo erectus who made this lower Paleolithic culture. So next comes a middle Paleolithic. This roughly starts around 3 lakh years ago, and this continued almost somewhere around 35 or 36,000 years ago. And this particular cultural phase, right, was made by Neanderthal man. Then comes the upper Paleolithic. This roughly starts around 40,000 years ago, and this most probably, right, this existed somewhere around 12,000 years ago. Or can say 12,000 to 10,000 years ago. Okay, so mostly up to 12,000 years ago. Mostly up to 12,000 years ago. On this particular cultural phase, right, it is our Cro-Magnon man, Grimaldi man, and Chancellidae man. It is they who made this Upper Paleolithic culture. It was only during the Neolithic period that our human beings have attained the current anatomical form or current anatomical form. So make it sure Paleolithic cultures, right, were not made by our current Homo sapiens, current human beings, but a primitive form of human beings. Neanderthals, Cro-Magnon, Grimaldi, and Chancellidae, and in fact, lower Paleolithic culture was totally made by Homo erectus. Homo erectus. Okay. So now let us discuss about the lower Paleolithic culture. Lower Paleolithic culture. So as I told you, it was the Homo erectus who made this particular culture. And lower Paleolithic, they were making only stone tools. They had no knowledge about making or using any metal. And most of the stone tools are made by Homo erectus, right? We can group that, or this belongs to core tool tradition. There are two types of tool tradition. One is core tool, and another one is a flake tool. Flake tool. Suppose if this is a big stone of this size, a big stone like this. Okay. So if they are, if our Homo erectus used some other stone to chip it, to chip it. After chipping it, if the center or the core of for the stone becomes a tool, this we call it as a core tool. Core tool. On the other hand, while chipping, while cutting this, a small fragment of this, right, may come out, and even that may be used as a tool. This we call it as a flake tool. Yes, are you okay with the term core tool and flake tool? And most of the tools used during lower Paleolithic were core tools. Were core tools. And most of the core tools belong to the tradition called as Acheulean stone tool. Acheulean hand axe. This was the very, even prior to Acheulean hand axe, right, there were few more primitive stone tools called as Chilean, pre-Chilean, Abbevillian hand axes. There is no need to go that deep actually. These pre-Chilean Chilean tools are still more primitive, and this was found generally during the early stage of lower Paleolithic. Do not bother much about it. But the very important and prominent stone tool of lower Paleolithic is an Acheulean hand axe. Why this name Acheulean? Because for the first time, such a stone tool was discovered from a place called as Acheules in France. So every subsequent discovery of a similar tool, right? We call it as an Acheulean tool, Acheulean hand axe, Acheulean hand axe. So the Acheulean tool, right? This was the very prominent tool during the lower Paleolithic period. So this is actually a teardrop shaped bifacially flaked tool. So how a teardrop will be when somebody cries, right? How the tears will come out? Teardrop will be like this, right? It's a teardrop shaped. Bifacially flaked. That means they flaked it on both the sides, both on this side as well as on this side. It in both this side also as well as in this side also. These are bifacially flaked stone tools. These are used for butchering animals, extracting nuts, etc. I'll show you a Herculean hand axe. This is an Herculean hand axe. See how nice it is, bifacially flaked, how it is flaked on all the sides. It is teardrop shaped, right? It will be of this much shape, this much size actually. Size of our palm and fingers, this size. This is a large tool. This is they can hold it in hand and they can use it for butchering. And remember, these tools are not fitted to any bone or twig. Technically, we call it as hafting. These tools are not hafted to any poles or any other thing. They just used it, this stone tool, they used it alone. So this is an Herculean hand axe. This is the most prominent stone tool of this particular cultural phase. And slowly towards the end of this lower Paleolithic culture, two flake tool tradition also emerged. That means the elderly people, right, they'll be busy making the stone tools. And even they use a number of techniques like indirect percussion, pressure flaking, etc. to make these tools. So how generally the tools are made? They'll keep one stone, and over this, right, they'll keep another stone like this. Okay, then by holding it, if they take another one more stone and if they give here, you can expect one portion to move out. This is how they have made these stone tools. So when they were making these core tools from the huge stone, they'll be chipping away small flakes, right? So those parts which had broken from here, this may look like a small flakes. Kids, right, may be playing around in this place. They may take that small flakes and they may use it for some purpose. They may extract a coconut from the shell and they may eat that. Or sometimes, right, they may use that to pierce open the shell of a snail or a mollusk and they can eat that. So looking at this, right, towards the end of lower Paleolithic, one small flake tool tradition emerged, which we call it as the Clactonian and the Levalloisian method of flake tools. Clactonian and the Levalloisian. So this is a Clactonian flake. This is a Levalloisian flake. So this tool tradition, right, emerged almost towards the end of lower Paleolithic, Clactonian and Levalloisian. Now we can draw one small diagram. lower Paleolithic, middle Paleolithic, upper Paleolithic. So now we are discussing only about lower Paleolithic. So during the early stage, maybe right here it may start from around uh, 3 million years and it may continue up to say 2 lakh years. Just for example, in a place. Maybe in Africa, in one part of Africa, it might have existed between 3 million to 2 lakh years. In some region in Europe, it might have started by around 2.5 million years and it might have continued till 1.5 million years. So that's why we are not so specific about when exactly the cultural phase starts and when exactly it ends. And we cannot divide this into watertight compartment because sometimes at the same stage, right, one particular culture may be nearing an end and another culture may be beginning. So there may even be overlap of two cultural phases. So in the most primitive, right, here we can find Chilean and pre-Chilean hand axes. It used to be like this roughly, just like a broken stone. So this appears here, these huge ones. These are very crude and very old tools. Then comes the Acheulean hand axe, which is found throughout the lower Paleolithic. This teardrop shape, bifacially flaked hand axe. And towards the end of lower Paleolithic, few flake tools also makes its appearance. This we call it as Clactonian. A place called as Clactonis, again in France, and Levallois, again in France. So the absence of beyond this, right, we cannot find the Acheulean tools. As I earlier told you, in stratigraphy, deeper the site is, oldest will be that. So the oldest stone tools, right, we can find that deeper here. The most primitive pre-Chilean, Chilean, Abelian hand axes. Then this most sophisticated hand axe of lower Paleolithic, the Acheulean hand axe. So lower Paleolithic culture is also called as Acheulean culture. So many a times, right, we can see a number of literature mentioning about Acheulean culture. Acheulean culture. If they say Acheulean culture, that refers to lower Paleolithic culture. So Acheulean culture refers to lower Paleolithic culture. And toward the end of lower Paleolithic period, few flake tools starts appearing. We call those as Clactonian and Levalloisian flake tools. Because these tools, right, there's a place called as a Clacton and Levallois. It is based on the place from where the tools were first discovered, right? We have named these tools. And every subsequent tools, every subsequent similar tools which were discovered in the other parts of the world were also named as Clactonian and Levalloisian flakes. Got it? So towards the end of lower Paleolithic, few flake tool tradition also appeared. That is Clactonian and Levalloisian. And after some time, right, there is a disappearance of Acheulean hand axes. People stopped using Acheulean hand axe and they were focusing much on smaller and finer flake tools. The absence of Herculean tools marks the beginning of the next cultural phase. Got it? Marks the beginning of next cultural phase. So like that, right? In one huge paper, right? Maybe suppose if this is the page, divide that into two half. In one half, you can write about the stone tools, and the other half, right, you can write about the various aspects of the culture. For example, here the Homo erectus contributed for this culture, and what are all the other things they did that we'll be discussing now subsequently. Okay, so please, for lower Paleolithic, sorry, for Paleolithic, you can make one chart like this, and further we'll be adding few more content here and here also. Okay, done. So now let us focus on the other aspects of this culture, lower Paleolithic culture. So apart from the stone tools, right? So because of the peculiar way in which these people can use the stone tools, they managed to start making their own culture. So now what the people or what the Homo erectus did during this particular cultural phase. The most prominent things which was observed was big game eating. So by game we refer to uh, the hunted animals, or the animals which we hunt. So predominantly, right, the British use the term game for hunting. Even now, right, the number of protected forests or protected wildlife habitations in Africa, we call it as game reserve. For example, Masai Mara. Masai Mara is in Kenya. We call it as Masai Mara Game Reserve. This is one among the largest wildlife habitations in the world. This is in Kenya. Okay. So now come back to big game eating. So big game eating means eating large animals like elephant or a zebra or a rhinoceros, etc. So where from the evidence for this comes actually? Archaeologist Clark and Howell, Clark Howell, studied a site called as Toralba and Ambrona in Spain. Here, right, in these caves, they have found numerous charred and splintered bones of elephant. These are apparently the leftover of the meals of Homo erectus. They have deliberately butchered the animals. They have used fire to roast it and they ate it. Remember, Homo habilis were the first to make fire. Homo habilis are the first to make fire, but Homo habilis had no control over the fire. On the other hand, Homo erectus, they can make fire and they can also control the fire within a particular area. Whenever they want, they can put off the fire. They can make fire and they can put off. They can confine the fire within a particular region. Okay, so Homo erectus had absolute control over the fire. So they have, so in the caves, right, of Toralba and Ambrona, hundreds of bones of elephants are found. They were charred, splintered. Apparently, they were the remains of the meals. And there were unmistakable evidence of human presence there in the form of uh, stone tools. So within the cave, see, if there is one cave here. another cave in some other place. If three femur bones of one elephant, one charred elephant is found here. And so one more femur bone is found here in this cave. Certainly an elephant cannot die by leaving three legs in one cave and one leg in another cave, right? And these bones were charred and splintered. That means they have roasted it in fire. They were apparently the remains of a Homo erectus meal. And there is an unmistakable, without see, sometimes even an accidental fire, right, might have charred the bones. But there is an unmistakable evidence of human presence here. Yes, human beings were there and they only did it. That is the stone tools found in this region. There are abundant Acheulean hand axes found here. This gives an unmistakable evidence of human presence. Yes, it was the human beings there, right, who did deliberately butcher these large animals and they ate it. But there is one doubt here whether our Homo erectus hunted these large animals or not. We do not have any evidence actually. But they were involved in hunting. Why? Why they couldn't be vegetarians? Why they were eating meat? Why did they hunt the animals? It is because the climate, right, was not conducive for them to live only as vegetarians. There was a cold climate which prevails here. I'll tell you once again, culture is nothing but man's adaptation to his environment. Buddhism, Lord Gautama Buddha and Buddhism, it preaches compassion not just towards human beings but also towards fellow animals, towards other animals. Many in India we think that Buddhists are pure vegetarians, but that was not the case. The Buddhists in Tibet, they eat more meat than the non-vegetarians in our country. Why? Why they are eating meat there? Because in Tibet is a plateau, and at least for 6 months, Tibet will be covered by snow. And in that cold climate, people cannot do agriculture there. Sitting in the valley of Yellow River or Mekong River or in Ganga and Brahmaputra Valley, one can think about living as a pure vegetarian. But being in hilly terrain or being in plateau, where environment provides very little opportunity for people to do agriculture, and even plants are very much limited here, trees are very much limited here. So there is a need for people to live by hunting and eating meat. Dalai Lama, after coming to India, after taking political asylum in India, he was surrounded by caste Hindus. So whatever may be the meeting which he goes, or if anybody offers him a dinner, there's a dinner party, he will be the only person eating non-veg and most of the people will be will be pure vegetarian. He found it to be a bit disgusting and what he did, he initially stopped eating non-veg. Wherever I go, people are not eating non-veg, man, how I can sit with them and eat all this meat, they are providing me, but how I can eat? Then he was diagnosed with one rare form of hepatitis. Then doctors advised him, Dalai your holiness, your highness, please continue eating your own food. Do not stop eating meat. So from that time onwards, right, he used to take non-veg on alternate days, it seems. So we are not here to make judgment about people with what they eat, about their culture. We should not be judgmental because culture is man's adaptation to the environment and what the environment permits. That can only human being follow. So during the lower Paleolithic period when earth was gripped by a cold ice age, people cannot live just by eating fruits and nuts. Because these food materials are very, very scarce and they were forced to eat the large animals, the meat of large animals. Okay. See here, they ate large animals, they ate large games, no doubt in that. Large games like elephants. There is no doubt in that. But did they hunt that? Did they hunt these animals? We do not have any evidence for that. But these people, right, without hunting, they cannot live. So, from the available evidence, what we can construct now is what we can assume now is our lower Paleolithic Homo erectus hunted small games and they ate large animals. And they ate large animals. Got it? So, the evidence for this comes from the caves in Spain. Clark Howell excavated these sites and he found number of evidence for big game eating. Big game eating in Toralba and in Ambrona. So next aspect is the control of fire. Control of fire. There is one particular cave in China from where WCP discovered Homo erectus. That very famous site is Zhoukoudian. Here in a place right there was a cave. So inside the cave in one particular place they have found a thick layer of ash. If there is a charred bone, okay. If there is a charred tree, well and good. But ash, right? Only when something gets burnt completely, we get ash. And a thick layer of ash within a place, thick layer of ash means they have used the same place again and again to make fire. That's why we have an accumulated thick layer of ash. This thick layer of ash, right, it suggests that Homo erectus had control over fire. And one way by which the Homo erectus hunted, right, were by using fire drives. One way by which the Homo erectus hunted was by using fire drives. So how they will use fire drives? Suppose if they spot some 5 animals or some animals here. So what they will do, they will make people to wait here. Wait here with their bow and arrow. Some 2 or 3 people will go here. One will create a fire here. One will create fire here. Another will create fire here. Seeing this fire, right, naturally these animals will start running in this direction. And when they run in this direction, these people can wait and they can hunt the animals. So this is called as the hunting by using fire drives. So it was believed that one way by which Homo erectus hunted was by using fire drives. And the evidence for the control of fire comes from the cave called as Zhoukoudian, where you could find thick layer of ashes in the caves. Okay. So next is one second. Campsites, where they managed to live. So most of their sites were there in open air. Most of the sites were there in the open air. But these people, right, they had no technology to store water. They generally lived near to water source. So every time when they want to drink water, they need to go to the river, drink water and come back. Because they do not have technology to store water. So most of their sites were near freshwater source where there are lush green vegetation, where there are more number of herbivores which they can hunt and they can eat. And there are few remote sites where even Homo erectus constructed huts. So one such sites were discovered in France near Nice in French Riviera. The site is called as Terra Amata. A site at Nice near French Riviera. Here, probably Homo erectus might have constructed a primitive hut. But in most of the cases, the settlements were in open air. In open air. So next cultural aspect of the lower Paleolithic are our Homo erectus. It is religion and ritual. Religion and ritual. We being in India, we are very much concerned about religion ritual, right? Not just us. Everywhere, right? Religion becomes a very important. It's a very important part of human culture. Okay. So, religion and ritual. Right now, right, there are no much evidence actually, but there are few evidence which comes from some place. For example, I told you about Zaukudian. Here, one skull was discovered, and the foramen magnum, right? Hope you know what is the foramen magnum. The foramen magnum was deliberately opened, it was butchered, and even few facial bones were broken. The way in which this bone were broken, right? It was very clear that human beings did deliberately broke this bone, and these were not a natural process by which the bones were broken. Deliberately, right? Deliberately, these bones were broken. These bones were broken deliberately. And what is the need for them? The way in which that foramen magnum was opened, right? It shows some evidence that these people they might have consumed the human brain. Even now, there are few tribes who live in Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, where they consume human brain. If somebody dies, right, they will cut open their head and they'll take the brine, they'll cook it and they will eat human brine. So there are some evidence that here it suggests that people may be a cannibal. Cannibalism. So cannibal means one species eating its same species. Are we cannibals? Yes, right. We eat the hard work of others. We exploit others. In one way, we are also cannibals only. We exploit our own species, right? Not just for food, for a variety of ways. Okay, so come back. Cannibal means these are animals which can eat their own species. So there is evidence to show that here human beings did practice cannibalism. So what is the need to practice cannibalism? There is a tribe called as Boro in Brazil. Boro. In Pirates of Caribbean Part 2, you can see, right? Okay, few tribes who managed to have a ceremonial feast. The Boro, they still practice the ceremonial cannibalism. So for ritualistic purpose, I told you there is one tribe called as Kuru in Indonesia. They practice cannibalism for taste. They love the taste of human brain, so they cook and eat that. Cook and eat that. Even there are many among us, right, who are cannibals. Once, earlier I had one friend actually, a good friend of mine. He's a doctor. He used to say that in his hospital, whenever cadavers used to come, they stored it in a mortuary. There are few attenders who what they used to do without others' knowledge, they'll cut some tissue from their thighs and they'll roast and they will eat that, it seems. Their long association with the dead body and cadavers made them a bit psychologically sick and they started doing these activities. So, people may practice cannibalism for three purposes. One, it may be for a ritual purpose. Ritual cannibalism. If they have any ceremony, they'll go to the nearby village, catch one, bring, tie him, okay, offer all the prayers, cut him, cook and eat. Ritualistic cannibalism. And few may do it for taste purpose. Gustatory, that means for taste. It is said that human meat is very, very tasty. That's why once when a tiger, if it comes out of a jungle and if it hunts a human being, after tasting a human meat, it will not think about going back to the jungle to eat some other meat, it seems, some other animals. Okay, it may be for gustatory. And third thing, it may be for survival. It may be for survival. Alaskan Eskimos earlier they used to practice cannibalism, it seems. 6 months there will be continuous winter, continuous darkness. That time there will be immense food shortage. And during this time, the senior most member of a family, right, he will move out of the igloo and he will expose himself to the cold and he will commit suicide, it seems. After some time, when the people right, they'll keep searching for him and they will find, when they find him dead, they know why he died. And they cut and eat, it seems. But if you go and ask them, nobody accepts that they do those things. But there is no other way left. When there is an extreme acute food shortage, when they have nothing to eat, at least there is some meat to eat and survive. So if somebody practices cannibalism, they may practice it for three purposes, either for ritual purpose, for gustatory or survival. Here we find there is an evidence for cannibalism. So there are 33% chance that they might have did it for ritual purpose. So there are chances that this cannibalism might have been for a ritual purpose. Along with that, in most of the lower Paleolithic sites, red ochre is also found in abundance. Red ochre. This is a fine red mud. This is very fine red mud which can be made into a paste. And even now, right, see, this red ochre is always associated with the blood in most of the primitive societies. Red ochre. So, a red ochre. Red ochre, right, finds its occurrence in most of the rituals even now. In fact, you can see in most of the Vaishnavakta sect temples in South India, the temple walls will be painted using this red ochre in alternate white and red color. Earlier they use red ochre to paint it. So red ochre is something very much auspicious, and the presence of red ochre in the lower Paleolithic site, right, that also gives some evidence that they might have used this for ritual purpose. But many refute this by saying red ochre, right? They might have even used it. Even now, you can say a number of tribes use this red ochre to apply it on their face and their body also, so that they can protect themselves against mosquitoes and other insect bites. So Homo erectus might have used this red ochre for this variety of purpose. So now, with the current available evidence, now we cannot, with the current available evidence, we cannot suggest or we cannot conclude that religion and ritual were the part of lower Paleolithic culture. Religion and ritual were the part of lower Paleolithic culture. We can only speculate with the available evidence. We can now only speculate that religion and ritual were the part of a lower Paleolithic culture. So these are the important cultural aspects of lower Paleolithic. Suppose sometimes indirectly they may ask you to write, write a brief note on the culture of Homo erectus. Now, do not write that their cranial capacity was so and so, their foramen magnum was centrally placed. The supraorbital ridges are very thick. Mandible is large and massive. Mandible is chinless. By the culture, right? Culture of Homo erectus. Indirectly, they are asking you to write the culture of lower Paleolithic. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. So when they ask you about, suppose if they ask you to write about the morphological and the cultural characteristics of Homo erectus, you can write all these four important characteristics along with the stone tool tradition which they have made. Hope you will not forget Acheulean hand axe, Clactonian and Levalloisian flakes. Okay, good. So next is Middle Paleolithic culture. Middle Paleolithic culture. So this cultural phase, right, it roughly existed somewhere between 3 lakh years and it continued almost up to 35,000 years. Also keep in mind this particular cultural phase, right, was made by the Neanderthals. Neanderthals made this culture, a Middle Paleolithic culture. And the absence of Acheulean tools marks the beginning of this culture. Absence of Acheulean tool marks the beginning of this particular cultural phase. Keep this in mind. Now we do not have picks and axes. We have small, fine flake tools. Small and fine flake tools. Okay. So now let us discuss in length about the cultural aspects of Lower Paleolithic. Now the Chilean and Acheulean tools are not there. Instead, now we have a small flake tool tradition which emerged out of the Levalloisian and Clutonian way of tool making. The Levalloisian and Clutonian flake tools we have discussed in lower Paleolithic. This got evolved and now we have the new type of a refined flake tool which we call it as a Mousterian tool. Mousterian flake tool. So because these stone tools right were first discovered from Le Moustier. Le Moustier in France. These are small flake tools. The small flake tools, you can hold it in your palm like this and you can use it. Or you can even hold it in your fingers like this and you can use these flake tools. Mousterian. So this is actually in fact a small cultural phase, or there's nothing much happened during this cultural phase except one important cultural development, that is the burial of the dead. And now again, even now earth was gripped by the ice age and men was forced to live in caves. Now men was a cave dweller. Most of the Neanderthals, right, most of the time, or most of their life they have spent inside caves to protect themselves against the cold wind. The most important cultural innovation which happened during this period was burial of dead. Burial of dead. Okay, burial of dead. So I told you most of them lived in caves, but there are few open air sites also. The open air sites, right? For example, there is one open air site in Moldova, in Western Europe, where Neanderthals lived totally in the open field, in the open air. Okay, so burial of dead. So for the burial of dead, right? The evidence for this comes from two important places. One is Shanidar in Iraq. And another one is Le Moustier in France. Le Moustier in France. So evidence for burial comes from two places. So in Shanidar in Iraq, what happened? One fossil was discovered in Iraq. And this fossil, right, was surrounded by lot of pollen grains. How unusually too much pollen grains comes around one fossil? It is because they have digged a pit. After keeping this guy inside the pit, they have thrown lot of flowers and then they have buried him. That's why the flowers made its presence here, or the pollen grains made its presence next to the fossil man. So this is one evidence to show that Neanderthals buried the dead. And the next evidence, right, comes from Le Moustier. Le Moustier in France. Here, one skeleton of a small boy, one fossil of a small boy was found. And next to him, one beautifully one fossil of a small boy was found. And next to him, one beautifully fashioned hand axe was kept next to him. How this becomes an evidence? See, during those time, making stone tool is not an ordinary task. And if one stone tool is left in the open air, somebody who is passing by the side, right, they may take it and they may use it. But the way in which it was positioned, right, it shows that they have deliberately buried this man. So Neanderthals were the first to bury the dead. This was a very important cultural development which happened during this period. And I told you, next is control of fire. Even they had absolute control over the fire. And further, to increase the efficiency of the fire, they have used a number of hearth. Hearths were used to increase the efficiency of the fire. Hearth means, see, even nowadays, the traditional Hindus, they used to conduct some yagnas. While doing yagnas, what they used to do, they will keep some bricks. And they used to keep all the wood, etc. here inside, and they used to rise a fire. So the purpose of the bricks here, right? What is the purpose here? It protects the fire and it increases the efficiency of the fire. So it won't spill over here and there. They can confine the heat here and they can increase the efficiency of the power, increase the efficiency of the fire. In most of the Neanderthal sites, the Neanderthal caves, the caves in which they lived, right? We managed to find hearths, evidence for hearths, where they have made hearth to increase the efficiency of the fire. Okay, so this is sufficient about Middle Paleolithic. So in Middle Paleolithic, what are all the things you need to remember in Middle Paleolithic? The most important thing, number one, this phase was dominated by Neanderthals. Neanderthals. Now there are no more Acheulean hand axes. In fact, we have flake tools called as Mousterian. Mousterian, T-E-R-A. Mousterian stone tools. They lived in caves. They lived in caves. They have used hearth to increase the efficiency of fire. The most important thing is they buried the dead. Burial of the dead, for which the evidence comes from two places. From two places. That is Shanidar in Iraq and Le Moustier in France. Sometimes, right, this culture is also called as, or many anthropologists used to refer this culture as Mousterian culture. Guys, remember, if there is a question about Mousterian culture, do not get confused. This is this refers to the culture of Neanderthals, that is Middle Paleolithic. Middle Paleolithic. And towards the end, right, with the exit of Neanderthals, Cro-Magnon man, Grimaldi man, and the Chancellidae man came to occupy the next cultural phase. And Earth was now again gripped by the last cold phase of Ice Age. This provided him a lot of opportunities, at the same time leisure also. A number of radical changes are going to happen in the life of the people now. A number of radical changes. So what these radical changes are? Man is going to become technologically sophisticated now. He is going to do a number of artwork, artistic work, paintings, making of ornaments. To some extent, marginally even there was an increase in population, but only very marginal. So what happened during the Upper Paleolithic period, Upper Paleolithic culture? So that we shall discuss in our next lecture. Okay. So until then, let us have a break. Guys, remember, keep one thing in mind. Nowhere in our examination they will ask you to write for more than 25 marks. At the maximum rate, you will be writing for 300 words only. Always keep that in mind while preparing for this examination. Okay. So, and about the stone tools, I have given you one detailed material. You can just go, there is no need to memorize all those things. And you can just draw some diagrams. Just seeing that right up. I will also train you later when I train you in the answer writing section, right? That time I will train you how to draw the diagrams here, how to draw the stone tools here. Okay, and in larger tools, in most of the core tools, right, they used to mention one particular thing, that is an eye of a tool. So eye of a tool means, in mostly if you take an Acheulean hand axe, generally you can see one portion which they will mark it as eye. I mean, this is that particular part of the stone tool which received the first major blow. The first major blow, because of which it became a separate piece. But even there is no need to go that deep actually, that deep. Simply if you know what is a Acheulean hand axe and to which cultural phase it belongs and how it was made and used, that is sufficient. Acheulean means lower Paleolithic. It is a core tool. Clactonian and Levalloisian, these are flake tools which emerged during the later cultural phase of lower Paleolithic. Mousterian flake tools in middle Paleolithic. From upper Paleolithic, right, even bones and the horn of rhinoceros, which was used as stone tools, right, makes its appearance. It doesn't mean that people belonging to lower Paleolithic and the middle Paleolithic might not have used a bone tool. But most of the bones might have got decomposed and we couldn't find any fossil evidence of bone tools during this cultural phase. No evidence of bone tools during this during this two cultural phase. Keep that in mind. So most of the tools which we have discovered are only stone tools. Stone tools. Okay, fine. So hope you are comfortable with the principles in prehistoric archaeology. See those dating techniques, right? Please try to remember, if not at least try to by heart, because at least in alternate years, right, they keep asking about the dating techniques, radiocarbon dating, and if you do not understand that, you just ask me, I'll take pain, not a issue. So even once again, right, I'll try to explain you those techniques used in dating. So earlier they have asked about identification of sites in one examination. How sites are identified, how sites are formed. So sites are formed when the prehistoric activities get buried by natural process. Even wind-borne sediments may bury the site. Sometimes simply even fallen leaves may come and cover a site. And the signs of, see, what do you mean by a stratified site? These are things which you should not forget. So a site gets stratified if the same site is reused again and again during different cultural phases or different period of time. Then a single site may get stratified. There are a number of stratified sites, most important being the Son Valley. in the Potwar Plateau of Pakistan. We call it a Son culture. In paper 2, right, in paper 2, we will discuss these cultural phases with respect to India. Then we will discuss number of sites in India, number of very famous sites. For example, the Gudiyam caves in the Madras province. We have one separate culture called as Madrasian culture, which evolved there in the Kotralaya river valley. The Kotralaya river right now it lies to the north of Chennai city, and there is one very important site in the north of in 90 kilometers away from Chennai city. That is found between located in the boundary of TN and Andhra Pradesh, TN and Andhra. The very famous Gudiyam caves. Gudiyam caves. Then what is this Mujtala, Chindamani, Gavi? Like that, there are number of India-specific sites, and I will also make you familiar with a few very important archaeologists like V.N. Mishra. Okay, so we will discuss in length about this. So we'll discuss about the Indian sites in paper 2. In paper 2. So what we are discussing in paper 1 is a broad outline only. So it is not specific to any particular country. Got it? So keep this in mind. So read it leisurely. So in the next lecture, let us discuss Upper Paleolithic culture, Mesolithic and Neolithic. Okay? So thank you. Bye.